Olá, eurovoxers, tudo bem? A final do Festival da Canção está chegando. O vencedor representará Portugal no Eurovision Song Contest e hoje vamos falar sobre os 8 finalistas e quem pode ser o vencedor. Certo, Dominik?
Pardon?
All right, so today I get a chance to test out my Portuguese a little bit. It's not the most consistent, but I'm doing my best. First and foremost, let's talk about one of the entries from semifinal one. This was Felipe Sambado with his song Gerba Amarela do Sul. How do you feel about his song?
His song is interesting. I like it. I am very interested about his looks though, because I have watched the lyric video and he had a pretty ordinary appearance. And then I have seen a live video and he was almost like in drag or something.
Mm-hmm.
That was very interesting.
He's very androgynous in his appearance, and that's certainly something that people who aren't familiar with him but saw the lyric video with just his portrait, it's something that a lot of people probably weren't expecting.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, and that part of it kind of reminds me of Conan from last year, which isn't to say that he was quite as androgynous, but obviously he was presented in a very unusual way. So that makes me a little bit concerned if people are going to read this in the same way. And obviously he stood out for some people it was for good reasons, and for others it was not for good reasons. So I wonder if that might be an area where it struggles. But nonetheless, talking about the song, I find it really evocative. And like I said, this is really testing my Portuguese, so it's quite hard to interpret, but it's totally compelling. Apart from that, I really like the layered vocals with the backup singers who are kind of veiled. Everything about it is just really striking. So, I mean, I don't know. What's your sense of the feeling of the song overall?
I really like the music in the background. So like these sounds are very distinctive and I really like them. However, I think, like, considering his appearance, the song is a bit like middle of the road. It's nothing too special. You would think, okay, if you see him like in his live performance, he would perform a very, I don't know, dramatic song. And in the end, it's not. So that's very interesting to see that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think in terms of if we're separating that from the song, I think that you are right to say that it doesn't have as much oomph as some of the other ones might. But then again, when it comes to Portugal's selection, they kind of do things in their own way. And for some people, it's for the better. For others, it's not as much. I really like the entry. I don't necessarily see it as the one going to Rotterdam. But nonetheless, I'm looking forward to seeing it in the final.
Tanta candura, delírio, tuas palavras, meu martírio. Gerbeira amarela do sul.
So up next, also from semifinal one, this seems to be one of the favorites, certainly. This is Barbara Tinoco with her song Passei Partout, which of course is in French. It's not that's not Portuguese, I can tell you that much. Dominik, your thoughts?
It's very interesting to see how she transformed it on the stage, because for me it sounds very like 30s, 40s. And however, like, her look wasn't really that. It was pretty modern, at least in my taste. Like, her appearance was like, okay, ordinary outfit. Having this 30-40 song though, that's very interesting.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people, what jumped out to them, especially the fact that she was in a bright yellow dress sitting on a bench and doing this very theatrical song. A lot of people thought of the movie La La Land. Did you think of that as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is certainly a very theatrical performance, and regardless of how people feel about it, it certainly stands out for that. The question is whether or not in a song that also has a lot of, or in a contest rather, that has a lot of modernity with it, if it's going to be seen by some people as perhaps a little bit cheap because of the theatrical appearance of it. But nonetheless, I really like how it's performed vocally. I want to see just a little bit more either in her expressions or maybe it's just more with the camera movement to get closer to her and have her carry the story of the song, because it is really, really fun, I think.
passe-partout.
Up next, we have Elisa with her song Medo de Sentir. This is, of course, a very tender ballad. How do you feel about her song?
I really, really like it. It's my favorite. Her vocals are amazing. And it's just very chilly. I think the mood of the song is very nice. And you'd simply enjoy it. As a non-Portuguese speaker, I have no idea what she's talking about. So I'm just really like, yeah, I like it. It's fine. And yeah.
So the thing that I really like about this, apart from it being like my favorite ballad out of all the songs in this selection, is the fact that you don't necessarily need to know the lyrics to feel it. You feel the sadness in her voice and you see it in her face. And I think that's really effective when you can do that without having to speak everyone's language. And, I'm thinking of another Portuguese singer that did that quite well. Whether or not this is at that level, I don't think so. But I think it's a solid entry. It's one of my favorites for sure. And yeah, I hope that it can come alive more on the larger stage that we'll see for the final. So we'll have to see.
Eu não era assim, mas agora tenho medo de sentir. Pergunta ao tempo, ele sabe tudo sobre mim.
So the act that closed out semifinal 1 certainly made an impact. This was Throws in the Shine with their song Movimento. How do you feel about their song?
Yeah, it's basically the opposite of Elisa. So 3 male guys like rapping and very energetic and very much into it. Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of rap music in general, so I don't know about it, but I understand why it's in the final, and that also brings variety into the contest, which is fine for me.
Does it at least make you move though? Do you like the beat?
Actually, there will be another rap song, and that got me a bit moved.
Okay. All right.
Not this one.
Okay, fair enough. For this one, I was a little bit doubtful when I heard the studio version, but when I saw it on stage, my opinion changed almost completely. And it isn't to say that I disliked it when I heard it, but it just has a different level of, it's really just about the stage presence. I didn't get the names of the members of the band, but basically like they're so magnetic, I find. And apart from that, I love the production in it. I love the electronic sounds. And again, it's the movements, which, is kind of apparent because the song is called Movimento, which is a movement. It's the expressions in their faces. It's the visuals. I love the overlays that you see throughout the song. I think it's a really nice package. I do also recognize that because it's hip hop, it will not be everyone's favorite, but I think that it would be a solid choice for Portugal.
Nunca esquece o perpétuo movimento do meu tempo. O caminho é daqui ao fim do mundo.
So now moving on to semifinal 2, one of the first qualifiers from that was Cadi with her song Di So. Your thoughts, Dominik?
Yes, I like it. It gave me like Brazilian vibes a bit, like walking around the, I don't know, Copacabana or something, and I listen to this. Yeah, I really liked it.
I really liked it too. I love that it's got this like 90s R&B feel. I also feel like visually, without having the kind of luxuries that you have at Eurovision with the LED screens and all kinds of lighting and stuff, everything with the movements of the dancers was just so pleasing. And it's got such a relaxed vibe to it, even though it's not necessarily the lyrical content is quite different from that. But I mean, this to me is like the kind of song that I would put on after bringing a date home, because it's got such a relaxed feel to it, perhaps a little bit understated, but I think there's a lot in it that's pleasing to me that I think could be good for Eurovision.
Paulina Maria Grace, oh Marielle, tens que matar pra vencer na vida.
Okay, so up next we have one of my favorite names to say. I'm going to try and make this as Portuguese as possible. Elisa Rodrigues with her song Não Voltes Mais. Dominik, how do you feel about it?
Yes, I like it as well. so it has some kind of, I would say, African vibes. You can like this chant, this Aouae. I really enjoyed it because it was stuck in my head. So yeah, well done.
I have to say, I really like the song as well. It's just performed very, very elegantly. The only thing that I'm concerned about is I don't know if it's engaging enough for television. It's the kind of thing that I would love to see at a concert live, but I just think that currently as it is, it's lacking a little bit of that X factor that Eurovision needs. But of course, this could change in the final. And if this were to be the one that gets selected, there's all sorts of opportunities for this. And as much as I don't feel like the engagement was there as much, I still felt like I was drawn into her. So I think that it has potential, certainly. So up next, we have another ballad. This one's by Tomás Louisa, and his song's called Mais Real que Amor. Dominik, how did you feel about Tomás's song?
I like it as well. It's very chilling, relaxing. I wrote down like it's a bit like a siesta because you're just not thinking about everything. You're just like, okay, I listen to the song. However, I think like in the end, it's getting a little bit repetitive, and there's not a lot of progress. So that's a sad thing.
For this one, I really like the production with it. It had such a wonderful blend of sounds, particularly the percussion, because it's so modern. But then there's also like the flavors of the guitar. The only thing is that this one kind of lands somewhere in between Caddy's song and Elisa's song, Elisa from the first semifinal. And yeah, it perhaps lacks a bit of an oomph that, something like what Barbara Tinoco has that helps her stand out among the rest. But certainly an enjoyable song, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it looks in the final. So last but not least, we have another hip-hop song that blends a little bit of gospel into it. This is Jimmy P with his song Abençoado. Dominik, tell me, what do you think?
Yeah, this one got my attention immediately because of the choir, but also about his rapping, because I prefer his to the other rap song. He has a very good intonation. Even though it's Portuguese, I don't understand any word, but however, I can really separate the words from each other, which is unusual if you don't know the language. Also, it is progressing, I think. It's not staying the same, which tend to be in rap songs as well. And I love gospel choirs, so I really, really like that, especially because it's such a, like, the opposite, basically, hip-hop rap and then a choir like in churches or something. So that really got my attention. And yeah, I also like the English lyrics because there are 2 lines, I think. I'm sorry, Mama, and in the background, like, I'm so blessed or something. So you can more or less see what it's all about, which is good because all the other ones are with no English at all, which is good. But in terms of its accessibility, that's a problem sometimes. And here you can at least, okay, I know roughly what it's about. And then you can really feel the emotion which he puts into the song.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that it's a huge challenge to make hip hop of most kinds that level of accessible. For me, this is actually my favorite of the entire selection. I feel it. And even aside from knowing a little bit more of what he's talking about, because the thing is, like, hip hop tends to be really dense. So even listening to hip hop in English can sometimes be a little bit overwhelming, and you need to listen to it a few times before you're really getting the full picture. So I certainly don't have the full picture for this one yet, but I feel it, and it actually makes me a little bit misty-eyed at certain points, which was a real surprise. The gospel side of it really adds to that as well. So this is just a really, really great entry, and I would love if Portugal were to send the song.
Isto é muito mais do que fazer cantigas, desde que as minhas palavras começaram a mudar vidas e que os meus sons começaram a curar feridas, desde que Deus me abençoou com uma rainha e 2 filhas. Abençoado.
All right, so now that we've talked about all 8 songs, I want to know your thoughts on winners and your favorites overall.
Okay, so I have two favorites overall. One of them is Elisa, very nice ballad. I really like it. And the other one is Jimmy. So as you can see, my taste is very different sometimes.
Mhm.
I predict that Jimmy might win this because it really grabs your attention immediately, and the response was pretty good. So I can see him winning.
As I already mentioned, that how in love with the song I am. I would certainly love that to be the case. I wouldn't count out Barbara yet, even though like some people said that they didn't feel like the performance was all the way there, and I kind of agree with them. But I still think that it could, for the fact that it's totally different to the rest of them, I think that it could still be the winner. I also like Elisa's song, Elisa, who sings "Medo de Sentir." Um, it's beautiful, it's heartfelt. Portugal is just bringing so many feels this year, and I don't even care how it will do at Eurovision, how these songs will do at Eurovision. I really really love them, so I don't think that there is a wrong choice. Also, I want to throw in "Throws in the Shine" because that would be a lot of fun, probably a little bit more divisive than Jimmy P's song,
Mm.
but yeah, I think a solid entry. So guys, those have been our thoughts on Festival da Canção's selection for 2020. Which one is your favorite and which one do you think is going to Rotterdam? Leave us a comment in the comment section below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Eurovoxx, reach out to us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Tell us what you're thinking and what your hopes are for the Eurovision season. We will see you next time. Take care.